Hi, I'm Kevin Jones, CEO of Ectobox. I'm here to talk about the idea about real-time plant visibility and the value and how to achieve it. We'll get into some high-level concepts and also a few details. Please make sure to watch this video and give us some feedback. Like it, subscribe for more videos we're going to be putting out. We'll be putting out a lot more, and let's get to it. So to give you a bit of background of who we are and why we talk about these kinds of things, we're a manufacturing industrial intelligence solutions company, and we are here to help companies operate more efficiently and grow, to help drive the economy, to help manufacturing get a lot better, and to support the communities that we all love to live and work in. We're a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania-based company here in the northeast part of the U.S., and we love, quite honestly, doing this kind of work. With that said, our challenges and current state. I want to set a little bit of context first. We're all, as manufacturers, you are all in the plant trying to solve those challenges around unplanned downtime, production throughput, quality, on-time delivery, all those kinds of challenges. While you're facing those challenges inside the plant, there are those bigger challenges around the globe, in the economy, in the industry, competition, inflation, supply chain, etc. Those are a lot of challenges to face. They've been around for a long time, and some of them have gotten to become more difficult as well. And the need that manufacturers have, if they want to actually survive the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, they want to be the one out of 12 companies that continues to succeed, and not the 11 out of 12 that might be acquired or go out of business if they don't take on these kinds of new ideas. If they want to succeed, they need data. They'll need to operate with more data. The data from the ERP system isn't cutting it anymore. They need to get deeper visibility into the factory floor to understand what's going on. I like to put these two high-level sets of challenges within two categories: the short-term value that companies will drive and the long-term value. Within the short-term value, the unplanned downtime, quality, production throughput, etc. kinds of challenges, they need real-time visibility to understand what's going on the plant floor, to solve those challenges in the moment, give better data to people so that they can innovate, give it to the most valuable people in the company, the people on the plant floor, so that they can actually solve those challenges in the moment. And also have that data historically, but near term, right after the event, to understand what just happened, why, and how to improve it next time. Looking at pieces of paper and Excel spreadsheets and compiling data, and then 3 months later, a customer complains and has a problem, and it takes you 3 days to find the cause of the problem, isn't going to hack it anymore. So you need this kind of data so you can solve it in real time, and also solve to also make better decisions going forward. In our mind, that's the short-term value. A lot of value, don't want to diminish that, but it's short-term value. There's also long-term value. Let's think about all the data that you can connect to throughout your whole organization, and we'll talk about how this works. But when we talk about all of the data that you can have in your organization, not just from the ERP, but from the plant floor. And then let's start to think about connecting to the supply chain as well. Connect to your vendors and the materials they have. Connect to your customers. All of you are speaking almost literally the same data language and are able to share the right data at the right time with the right people. Not everything, but just the right data. Then at that point, what kind of difference could you make with your customers? How would you be able to differentiate yourself in the market with your products and change your approach, change the intelligence you have on your products as they're used? Good example, company talked about recently that is a large bakery, bread manufacturer. They are using IoT in bread. Now, that doesn't mean that we're all swallowing nanoparticles that are giving off IoT data up to the mothership. Rather, what they're talking about is using something like barcodes on the bread and then influencing customers that buy that bread to scan the barcode as soon as they get the bread, scan it as they use it, scan it when they throw that bag of bread away or when it goes bad, and give feedback and make it easy. And then give the customer back something. Do you know how valuable that data is to that bakery? It's huge. What kind of companies have that kind of valuable data on their products now? But just getting that data alone on the bread isn't as valuable as connecting that data with when that specific bread was made, what the feedback was on that bread, what ingredients, what suppliers provided those ingredients. That's when you can really start to differentiate yourself on the market, not only on quality, but on driving new markets, new opportunities, inventing, innovation. Maybe even get to the point, if you're an OEM, creating big products, changing your business models, because you're actually able to not sell it on a CapEx basis, but rather OpEx, operational. Get your customers to get out the Amex or the Visa card, the purchase card, and pay for it on a monthly basis rather than a $100,000 big, long, complicated capital expense approval process. Completely changes the ballgame. So the value of the data that companies have that is undeveloped or underdeveloped, that's on that plant floor and in the customer's hands and in your vendor's hands, is hugely valuable. And we need to mine that data, get that deeper visibility into the factory floor and the rest of the organizations. Then we'll be able to solve not only the short-term problems, but also the long-term problems. Usually we find companies in this kind of state. They have an ERP system at the top. They have a manufacturing, top of the organization, manufacturing plant floor, the bottom, of course, where the machines and the really valuable people are. And what's in between? Typically pieces of paper and spreadsheets. How does a company get the sales order that turned into a work order and schedule down to the plant floor? Print out a piece of paper on the printer, hand it to someone, they carry it down to the plant floor. Hopefully they have the current drawings. Hopefully the right product is made in the right time. Meanwhile, customers calling to say, hey, I want to change my quantity. I want to reduce it or increase it, or change the drawings. In the meantime, the piece of paper is already going through the plant floor. Nobody's thought to go out there, catch it, update it. Wrong product is going out. Product has gone late. And you don't have the real good data about what happened. Again, companies need to get that real-time visibility, and you're not going to get that through these pieces of paper and spreadsheets that are floating through the organization. And that's where you insert MES here. Insert MES here, the manufacturing execution system. Manufacturing execution system is the glue that holds it all together. It's a digital system that should connect everything across the organization together into one place. That can then help the organization get that real-time visibility. Again, we'll talk about some of these ideas in a little bit, but the idea here is that this MES system is the glue that holds the organization together, and we need to get rid of those pieces of paper and spreadsheets and enable everybody to have their real-time visibility. Get that model of the manufacturing business in place so that you can actually execute what's going on, because the ERP doesn't have the capability to work within the plant at that level. ERP companies want to think they can, and they will sometimes make changes to their products to enable some of those capabilities, in part because nobody else has done it yet. But now companies need to go even further than what the ERP companies have enabled you to do with their products. And so that's where companies often need this kind of capability to get that MES system in there. And that's typically where companies really want to start. We also find companies in this kind of situation too. The ERP system is at the center of the organization. And they're trying to run, again, the whole organization around the ERP. And they'll have other systems in place, whether they're pieces of paper, Excel files, or actual off-the-shelf applications, or maybe even custom applications as well. But they'll often try to get this interconnectedness and real-time visibility of what's going on, but they'll do it through discrete connections between the systems. And those discrete connections become exceptionally difficult to put in place and exceptionally difficult to maintain over time. And then things get even worse when you want to swap out one of those systems. If you want to swap out your MES, or God forbid, you want to upgrade or replace your ERP system, then you have to replace all of these connections. And that creates a massive amount of technical debt and inertia against making changes in the organization. Let's think about a new way to solve it. Let's think about what some of those options are to solve that situation. We look at it in three ways. I mean, there is an underlying architecture that we'll talk about called the unified namespace that underlies the optimal solutions that we believe should be put in place. But with that said, there are three categories or types of solutions that companies can select. The first one is the monolithic architecture, the monolithic MES system, a manufacturing execution system. Those projects can be very large and very risky and also very expensive. It's sort of like putting your ERP system in place the first time or going through a major ERP upgrade. Ask yourself, how well did that go? Probably not very well. Putting these kinds of solutions in place requires a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of coordination, and often companies really don't have the understanding of what it takes to do it, aren't prepared for it, and don't execute well. We know some companies that are putting these large systems in place and having success, but those systems they're putting in place are very narrow and specific and unique to their industry, and also the, if you will, the sub-industry that they are in. Other companies, though, will look at the big applications out there. The product companies and integrators of those big MES systems will overpromise and unfortunately underdeliver. Those companies will often find the big MES system, the broadly based MES system. They will try to put it in place and then not understand the risks they're getting involved with. With these kinds of options, I'll talk about the three with the pros and cons, the three options that we typically talk about. We see the first big option that companies will take for putting real-time visibility in place and executing a solution is by getting a big monolithic application, or excuse me, a monolithic product or solution, like an MES solution, manufacturing execution solution. These big single project kind of events or implementations can be problematic because they are very risky, very difficult, very expensive, and require a whole lot of things to go well, especially if the company isn't really ready for what it takes to work through a solution like that. Typically, those kinds of projects will go the way that your last big ERP implementation or your big ERP upgrade went. And I'll ask you, how good was that? How well did that work out? Probably not very well. We actually have heard stories about some specific big MES systems with their integrators actually being canceled by the CEO halfway through because the systems were, overpromised and they underdelivered on ease of setup and connection to devices and systems and machines and all the rest of that. And it's really unfortunate that massive amounts of money and time and the resources have been wasted in that way. The second type of option that companies will often pick are what we call point solutions that are off the shelf. Point solutions off the shelf are typically what we think of as the production monitoring systems. We find them a lot in metals, precision metals, plastics, and other types of organizations. Sometimes in other types of companies as well, but they are usually the types of solutions that will connect to the machines and provide a lot of machine data. But then they're kind of capped at that capability. They can provide OEE, made up of availability, performance, and quality, but only if that system allows them to actually track quality and to track all aspects of availability and to track the performance, the production, part counts, etc. But not all these point solutions can, even though they will say they provide OEE. Well, availability and performance doesn't make an OEE calculation accurate. You need quality in there as well. So these kinds of solutions can be great at pulling data from machines, but they give you a glass ceiling in their capabilities. Some of them can integrate to ERP systems. Some of them provide a little bit of scheduling capabilities. Some of them actually can connect to other systems as well. But how far can you take them? That's the big question, and that's where the glass ceiling comes into play. Why not look at another option, which is a solution that's built for you? It's kind of a patchwork quilt idea. Let's get a solution in place that's small, start where most companies need value, which is downtime, OEE, work orders, work order management, and potentially some scheduling. But then with that system you have in place, then start to build on that and use certain tools that you can use to integrate easily into those original features. We use tools like FactoryStudio from Tatsoft, as well as Ignition from Inductive Automation to build that starter system that we have as a product called MES Lite, and then we put it in place. If we're then building that solution on top of a really good, flexible, open, scalable architecture called the Unified Namespace, then we're really talking about solving not just those short-term problems, but also those long-term problems as well. So the built-for-you solution can work really well. Some might argue, what about the point solutions that are off the shelf? Could they be that starter product? Sure, they could. But do they meet the minimum technical requirements that we talk about that are in some of our other videos? That's a good question, and often they don't. Keep in mind, the idea is to become a data-driven manufacturer. The holy grail really is about connecting everything and everyone into a network, and then making sure that all layers of the business know what's going on. They have visibility into what's going on to all the other layers of the business in real time. Stakeholders, same thing. They have access to what's going on right now, current state, and also future state in real time. Once you have that kind of capability, you can then move the company forward in being able to make those real-time decisions and have that real-time visibility. The idea is to connect all that data into one system, one network, everything into that one system or one network, to create what we think of as a single version of the truth or a single pane of glass into which everybody can look. Let's take a look at what that looks like. This is the Unified Namespace. Unified Namespace is exactly what I was just mentioning a moment ago. It's that idea of that single version of the truth, that single network that everything and everyone connects into. Let's connect your ERP system. Let's connect your LIMS, your business intelligence, your MES, your SCADA, your PLCs, HMIs, everything into the single version of the truth. Once you connect all these systems into this single unified namespace, into the single hub of data, this grand central station of data, as I call it, then at that point, let's also structure that data. Let's not only provide that single place where that data is connected, but let's also structure that data using some ideas from ISA 95 standard part 2. Specifically, it's enterprise site area line cell. If we can structure our data in this manner and get access to that, all of that data in real time and get that current state, we can then publish data into that system from a PLC, let's say, and then have the MES system subscribe to that data, calculates OEE. The MES system then can publish that data back into this unified namespace within this structure of the data. And then it's straightforward for somebody within another department, maybe in IT, to be able to find that data and subscribe to it in a business intelligence tool and chart a nice progression of OEE going up over time. That's a quick overview of the unified namespace and the fact that we're able to connect all of these systems. Then let's think about what we were talking about earlier, which is the short-term challenges in the plant floor, unplanned downtime, quality, production. And let's also think about the longer-term challenges that we want to solve, differentiating the company in the market, connecting with the supply chain and improving things with your customers and your vendors, being able to change your business model and how you sell your products and how you buy your products. This interconnectivity, this unified namespace, goes well beyond the four walls of your plant. And it goes well beyond the virtual four walls of your enterprise to the outside of your organization to enable access to that data to drive decision-making, to drive analytics, forecasting, and to enable those longer-term challenges to be solved as well. Hugely, hugely powerful. So how do we get there? How do we build out this solution? The first thing that we do is in a pilot project, we put this unified namespace idea, this unified namespace architecture in place. That becomes the foundation for everything else. And the pilot project is not expensive. It can be small, 1 or 2 machines. Find an important business challenge to solve first. Then with that business challenge, define what the unified namespace is going to look like, define the technologies, and then solve that challenge. One of the things we do is we ask customers when we're working on these projects, well, do you have a digital strategy? Do you have some minimum technical requirements established? Do you have the guardrails for making the decisions that you're going to go through, that you're going to need to make through what ends up being your digital transformation? Very often they'll say, no, we don't. What we'll typically recommend is that they get into a DTMA, a Digital Transformation Maturity Assessment. And in that process, we'll assess where they're at now for their manufacturing processes and intelligence, their data, where they want to go as a company, and then we'll help plot out a roadmap to help figure out how they're going to get from here to there. And again, one of the first steps is to put that unified namespace in place with the right technologies that are open, available, non-proprietary, no vendor lock-in, tools that everybody in the company can learn from an end user perspective, and the engineers and technical people can learn from an implementation perspective. And then we help provide the solution for them to scale over time. So again, back to this idea about the unified namespace. That's the first place that we start to build a solution. Then from there, we start to build out the MES. Let's get a couple of those early capabilities in there. Again, downtime, OEE, scheduling, and work order management. Those are typically the first several things that companies ask for, plus some reports that come out of that data. And when I say OEE, I don't mean just a big OEE number, but let's break down that OEE on performance and quality and availability. Let's provide some back-end data where you can break those numbers down to understand what's really happening there, so that you can dig into the real-time visibility of the factory floor and understand what's going on. Once you put those first capabilities in there, as that first piece of the puzzle, that starter MES solution, then at that point, start to select the other business challenges to tackle. As you put this solution in place and get that data, you'll learn more about what's going on in your plant and where the problems are. And as you learn more, you're going to change your perspective on what else you need and what other problems you need to solve. So then you can start to build out that patchwork quilt of an MES solution using not only just applications that you write yourself or you go to an integrator like us to write, but to use best-in-class tools that are excellent at solving that challenge. The best-in-class CMMS system for maintenance, the best-in-class track and trace system, the best-in-class recipe management system, whatever it might be. But by using those guardrails you've established in that digital strategy, with that digital strategy and the minimum technical requirements, then you'll make good selections for the products going into the future. As you establish and build out this MES system and that underlying architecture where you connect everything into it, then at that point, you're able to scale out even further and really drive the long-term value and solve those really big picture kind of challenges. Why does it make sense to use these ideas, to take this approach of using a built-for-you kinds of solution? The first off is that you are not locked into a vendor. It's non-proprietary. Really valuable to think about that, so that you can build your own future and use tools that you can build yourself, which actually looks like is the third point. Second is that it makes sense to use the kinds of tools that we're using, like frameworks or FactoryStudio from Tatsoft and Ignition by Inductive Automation, because they're industry-proven tools. Third reason to take this kind of approach is that you have control over your future, and your people technically can do these kinds of projects, especially as the younger generations come in and are more technically adept at taking on these challenges, learning technologies, and executing solutions. They can really execute well for you. And also, this will, by the by, help you attract more people into manufacturing, which these days still, unfortunately, isn't looking terribly sexy. You're also able to limit your risk by implementing this kind of solution. You'll get value early on by putting in a small piece of the MES system. There is a company we're talking with. They're looking at two options. One group wants to get an off-the-shelf MES solution, and they're hoping, it's now, September. They're hoping to have that solution selected by the end of December. The other group wants to build it with a starter package and then create that patchwork quilt. They hope to have data by the end of December. Who do you think is going to get a lot more value in the short term and also the long term? It's the group that is selecting the patchwork quilt idea, starting quick, moving fast, getting the value early. And then, well, that kind of makes the last point, is the very fast time to value for these kinds of options. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope this was valuable. Please give us feedback, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.